You people who are getting this second-handedly on the tape, whether it be a week from now, a year from now, just getting it second-handedly, I will tell you one more time, I understand absolutely the difficulty because I'm the one doing this. So if I do not understand it, shame on all of you. Walking in, picking up these tapes right now, a month ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, you are in almost a sinkhole, because for the last 2 years what I have been doing has no real precedent. And for you showing up to see these tapes or believe that you're maybe becoming involved with some mystical cult and looking for a place to stand, looking for a place that has some formal system and something or someone to worship, I will tell you now, if this is your first tape, you will probably go to sleep or want to leave before this one is over, and I understand it. I guess you can attempt to hold on until such time, if I do come up with a more presentable, a more simplistic public form of this. But as for now, I understand the difficulty, and tonight will be no exception. I'm going to run around this sinkhole in about 4 different directions and at least 4 different dimensions about some of the things that I have been mentioning for the last several months. The first several things I was going to mention represent a prime example that I'm going to almost defy in the second paragraph, what I wanted to point out in the opening one. But remember, that's just verbally the way it appears. So the opening paragraph is back to the partner and the partnership. You could look at the partner in everyone as being almost as though it were an ever-running teletype machine, day and night. And it ostensibly would be reporting on events out there and on events in here. But if you attempt a non-binary investigation of this, that's not true. What it really reports is only the internal impressions. And it reports in a particular way that if I don't notice people having yellow circuit hernias that I'll drag into before I finish. But quite literally, not just as a game, as you know by now, but you can look upon this thing that I've been calling the partner as though it were a teletype machine, and it is non-stop. It, of course, is going when you're in bed with your eyes closed, and during the day it is going whether you're driving, whether you are out running, whether apparently the consciousness of the circuits themselves might be predominantly in the red circuit, or you might be sitting around almost in an upright, unconscious position. The whole thing of staring out the window, or just almost a sleepy blase. And it's this kind of moment, if you were ordinary, and a great bearded mystic leaped out of the bushes and said, all right, what were you thinking? In all truthfulness, your consciousness would probably say, I don't know, I'm not even sure I was thinking anything. I was just sort of kind of staring off. I don't know. There's nothing on my mind. I was not particularly upset. But this teletype machine is running all the time. At first glance, if I described it a little more, some of you may have jumped ahead as soon as I mentioned it, and it would appear that this machine, just as a good teletype machine with one of the wire services would do, its only job, of course, with AP and UPI, is it's reporting events. But this particular teletype machine also, if it's not reporting events of what you're observing out there, and a wreck just occurred, or isn't that so-and-so? I know her. I'm pretty sure that's her. If that's not going on, then apparently it is sending reports on the internal condition of you. But as I said, all of that is appearance. Because if you examine it in this peculiar way that you're supposed to be able to approach now, you can see that it does not really report on events out there. It reports upon your impression of the events, which is almost synonymous with reporting on you. That is, compared to how I start out saying that it appears to be. It's reporting on two things. It's really reporting on one thing. It's reporting on the internal condition of you. Now, paragraph 2. Since we've had some matter of weeks now, and so many of you seem to have gotten something out of me using this map of the partner, let's go from a noun to a verb, or at least from an apparent noun to a verb. Most of you should be primed to get something out of this. It is the partnership that is running man's ordinary world of action and thinking of action. It is not the partner. It is the partnership. It takes a combined effort. And somewhere in the midst of this, I should present to you again my question of several weeks before. If you recall, when I drew out again, such as my historic symbol of the circuits, and then consciousness. And I ask you somewhat to the effect, is there anything within one other than consciousness and the circuits? Is there a difference? You should know the answer by now. Is consciousness in the circuits? Is consciousness simply in the yellow circuit? I mean, since ordinary consciousness can be temporarily and even permanently done away with, physical damage to this, then is consciousness nothing but a yellow circuit activity? And many people, even after hearing this for a bit, might say, yeah. Many of you might think that I'd said it was before. But if that be true, how can you see the teletype machine? How do you have any notion of me talking about a partner in someone? Why did not everyone get up and leave when I first pointed out that everyone has a partner? Why didn't everyone, being the intelligent people you are, examine your own experience, if not past experience, immediate experience, and realize, no, that's not true. There's nobody in me but me. Is there anything other than consciousness and the circuits? How about this? When men say that they have changed, or even when men desire to change, it is consciousness affecting the circuitry. When people feel as though I need to change, I am overweight, I am lazy, I should have stayed in school, I should be more forceful, whatever it is. It is consciousness attempting, if not succeeding, in its opinion, to affect something in the circuits. Now, if you hear that as simply as I put it, then we come to another question. And that is the matter of what is motivating consciousness. To desire change. You're getting close, or I am, and dragging you with me if I can, not only to a sinkhole, but almost a black hole. Because this is somewhere in the same small neighborhood as my question, what are you going to say next? Because all the time that I've said that people do not ordinarily change, and I tried to get you to see something, not that I was right. I tried to even get you to see how impossible it almost was to see it at an ordinary level, that people do apparently change. Drunks quit drinking. Evil people become repentant. Obese people lose weight. Thin people put on muscles. Lazy people take up jogging. But look at your own partnership. Look at the notion, take the partnership, as being consciousness and the teletype machine. It is disapproving of something coming over the teletype machine. Or it is consciousness, I'm giving you 2 or 3 to make it good and simple. It is consciousness disapproving of something in the circuitry. And it might, as far as it's concerned, have it pinpointed. Like the red circuit, I am too lazy. I am in terrible physical shape. For the time being, don't get involved with, all right, I just read that in Reader's Digest, or I just had a physical exam and the doctor told me. I'm about to let you swallow all of that. Everyone disapproves of themselves in some way. We've already been through that. Everyone knows that, or what the hell are you doing here? Or if you get really good, what the hell are you doing on this planet? So apparently, at just an ordinary level, people can change. At least they desire to change. They will attempt to change, and in many cases, they apparently do change. That I really got tired of being so out of breath, so overweight. I quit smoking. I started jogging. I worked myself up from 100 feet the first day to I'm jogging 5 miles a day. I've lost 50 pounds. I can breathe much better. My heart doesn't pound. I gave up coffee. That is a change. I did it. It is consciousness talking about what it did to the circuits. But now getting back to the edge of the black hole. To still say, as ordinary man has been made to do, that I did this. I'm the one that gave up smoking. I'm the one that quit eating ice cream. I'm the one that half starved myself. I did it. The question that consciousness cannot comprehend is, what made whatever I is that's talking, what motivated it to disapprove of the circuits and to affect this change? I guess your silence answers my question. It's not playing with words, but it gets to the very areas that you have got to understand if this is to remain anything other than a place for you to come and spend a few hours a week listening to something strange. Because at the ordinary level, this thing I keep saying, I disapprove of this, I like this, I want to do so-and-so, I want to eschew so-and-so, I'm going to cease going in this direction. And it takes the full responsibility, be it apparently successful or otherwise. All right, I slipped off of my diet. I am back smoking. I am back eating candy bars. Well, what this thing cannot ask itself, in the way in which I'm presenting it now, but being consciousness of the circuitry, that there is something in man that can be conscious of the circuits going on. That it is conscious that my back hurts and I can talk about it. I can ask someone, do you know my back hurts? Do you know how to stop my back hurting? I can tell someone I know that I am overweight. I can tell someone I am going to stop being overweight. I am conscious of what's going in the circuits. I have some consciousness that I have a bad temper. Now I'm going to work on it because I know that is not to my best interest. It is as though this is talking down, let's say, to the blue circuit, to my bad temper, my impatience. What you've got to confront is what is motivating consciousness, and where can you get off? Let us say in an intellectual sense. By letting this thing say, I did so-and-so, that I am the one that affected the circuits, end of conversation. The rest of the conversation is, what motivated consciousness? Well, even at a very simplistic verbal level, one reason consciousness cannot abide such a question is that it would reveal, if it were possible, it would reveal closer the true nature of what man is up to, other than what consciousness and the circuits believe that they are and should be up to. So not only is there no answer forthcoming, consciousness cannot ask the question. It can barely tolerate me asking it, because it can just go, well, that's nonsense, or it can go, well, that doesn't even make sense. And it makes just splendid sense, makes wonderful sense. For anything to occur, for ordinary action, for ordinary thinking of action to occur, and I'm speaking on the ordinary level now, you make that synonymous with consciousness right now, have got to operate via the partnership. One of you cannot operate alone. Before you make an instant judgment and put a period on that, I haven't put a period on the sentence yet. You have got to operate via the partnership. And that's whether you seem to be in temporary agreement with the partner or otherwise. It's the same thing. You can be, that is the apparent you, reading the teletype machine that gives some information about so-and-so just called your office and he or she reneged on their agreement with you. So you got consciousness of a note your secretary handed you. Yellow circuit looks, reads a note, whatever effect it has on the rest of the circuits, that someone has now backed out of a deal on which you were counting. For this to turn into either action or thinking of action, you have got to operate via the partnership. You and the teletype have now got to operate together. But it doesn't mean that you and the teletype agree, that you and the partner agree we should act, or that you and the partner agree here's what we should do. It can be diametrically otherwise. That you and the partner can have two different ideas as to what should be done. But that's fine. No problem. If you think that's unusual, that just shows how much you know. That shows how much you've been looking. But it does take this. You and the teletype, consciousness and the circuits, you and the partner have got to operate as a team. And you can disagree over what should be done. You can disagree over your thinking about what should be done. You can disagree over your thinking about what seems to be the motivation behind this. Or you can both agree. It's the same thing. But you've got to operate in tandem with the partner. That's the only way anything gets done on this level, including thinking of dunning. Now, I would suggest to you, whether I pursue it or not, that opens up an interesting possibility. That if, at the ordinary level, nothing can get done, and I guess I should give you at least a week or 5 minutes to find that out, that anything that gets done, that includes action and thinking of action, requires, there's no way out, that you and the partner are going to work in partnership. Even if you violently disagree over what happened, over what you should do, over what should be your attitude, that doesn't matter, or whether you seem to be in firm agreement, that there is no doubt. Here's what we're going to do. It's the same thing. But at the ordinary level, for anything to happen, you and the partner have got to work in tandem. All right. I've been saving this for a new holiday. And as much as I claim to dislike prefaces, here I go again. But see, that's all right, because my partner loves prefaces. No, that's not right, I say. Well, he wasn't even listening, so that made it right. The preface is, do not let the precision or the limpidity of what I'm going to say, the lucidity then, throw you again. Because I'm going to give you one of the basic hardwired guidelines that life has for man. This is even stronger than laws of quantum physics for those who can hear it. And I have managed to keep it non-technical. It's one of the basic laws life guides man by. And it's this: either you do or you don't. According to the context in which you speak, of course, it could be phrased as either you are or you aren't. But the basic law is either you do or you don't. And if you get a grasp of that, then where I draw out line level consciousness, once you get a grasp of that, everything below the line, everything you know about life is child's play. I could then talk even more, what's worse than obtuse? I'll give you some general notion of it. Of course, I've been talking about it ever since you've known me. All of life seems to be involved between people, between you and the partner. With a running discussion, then oftentimes the thinking of action turns into action. It does to some degree, or things would not continue to live. It takes more than thinking of action to circulate the necessary energy in life's body to keep it growing and to make man necessary. But action includes thinking of action. But there is a running dialogue, a running argument between all people concerning their diverse interests, their diverse attitudes toward the same interest. Someone says, I guess sex is necessary, and I read about it, everybody talks about it, and I got nothing against it. Sex doesn't seem to do much for me. I don't seem to have that much interest. It's just, somebody says, I guess some exercise is necessary, but hell, I have been a couch potato most of my life. According to Reader's Digest, I'm overweight. I'm now in my 50s. Half the people I grew up with, my peers, are dead anyway. Last time I had a checkup, the doctor said, you're overweight, you smoke too much. And I said, isn't that Hyman? He said, fine. And then he coughed and had to excuse himself. Or somebody else says, I guess politics must be of some importance. I've never voted. I know that other people take it seriously, and I guess theoretically who's running countries here and there has some importance, but, you know, I can't see that me getting involved with that, I don't see it has any significance whatsoever. Then contrarily, of course, there is the three examples I just made up. You've got other people that's going to holler, you know, boy, sex is everything to me. It's the best hobby I've got. Somebody's going to say about exercise that I could not live without exercise. They even got, and they march, they petition the governor of their state to affect the school system, that we've got to require more exercise for children. Somebody else, their whole life, every spare minute they got seems to revolve around politics. They want to argue about it. They phone into talk shows. They write letters to the editor. In a sense, I'll give this quick and I'll take it away. In a sense, none of that exists. So forget that. Now, for those that don't see that, all of the argument, all of the debate, and I just picked out sex and running and politics, but you understand we can include religion, we can include any apparent interest that any human has. All the debates, all the arguments, and I don't mean just fist fights in bars, that which apparently are raging arguments, not just in action, but in thinking of action, conflicting philosophies, apparently conflicting religious systems, apparently conflicting political systems that may turn into overt warfare. Humanity has always been asking at the ordinary level of consciousness, why is this? Why cannot everyone agree on X, on what should be our sexual mores, on what should be our political system, on what religion we should all pursue? Why the conflict? The whole point has been missed up until now. It's not that the things apparently under discussion, sex, exercise, religion, politics, it's not that the things have any innate significance. What's not known is the law, the guide I just gave you. It's quite simple. It is, I'm sorry that some of you gasped or choked, it is limpidity at the extreme. It is precise to the zenith. You either do or you don't. I don't know. To me, there's nothing like good sex. Person over here says, I don't know. I've tried it in all kinds of positions every day of the week. I've tried it with all kinds of people, and you know, something must be wrong with me. You either do or you don't. I like it. I don't care for it. You either do or you don't. I find religion to be an extremely important part of my life. Another person says, you know, it's silly putty that people who won't control give out to the less informed. One person, I'm religious, another person says I'm not. You either are or you aren't. That's it. To where humanity, that is ordinary consciousness up to now, has always looked and has written, I guess it's into the billions of books of some form and pamphlets by now, over why is it, what's wrong with somebody over here who does not see the importance of religion? How can we convince them otherwise? What is lacking? And of course the person who is not religious says, when will humanity grow up to get to the point and get over this worrying about some God living somewhere? We got to live our lives now. Looks like a very basic conflict, and it's just inexplicable. There's no way to describe it. Religion's tried, that is, life tried through man in religious terminology. All right, we got a matter of those who see the light and those who don't. In psychiatry, psychology says we've got a matter of those that are in a rather pleasant relationship to themselves and their bodily functions and their relationship with the external world, and other people are somewhat askew. And of course, as all of you had every opportunity to find out before you got here, at least to you, it didn't seem to satisfy you. But now you'll be able to see that what is the ostensible aims, what are the ostensible aims of everything, are never met. Religion does not do what it purports to do. Psychiatry does not do what it purports to do, etc. Thus, verily, verily, and may it always be always, and etc., because that's the way life is. If they could complete those, then you would have new dinosaurs. Religion would become extinct. psychiatry would become extinct. And if all of these things, if politics and everything could fulfill what it in general purports to be, we would be extinct. That'd be the end of it. But the human consciousness has always been talking, trying to analyze, why is it, somebody who seems to be in the minority, that so many people seem to enjoy, so many people say that the arts, music, and literature, that they say that they couldn't live without it. They'll move to other parts of the country. And I've tried to better myself in the world. I've gone in museums. I've looked at paintings. I've tried to read these so-called great books. I've tried to listen to all this classical music, all this Bach and Wagner and all those people. And then it gets into an attempted analyzation as to what's wrong with me, or conversely, what's wrong with them. You either do or you don't. That is the beginning and that is the end of one very basic, now that I put words on it, I don't like law. Religion's already worn that out. Guideline, I'll stay with that. Guideline with a wink. The partnership cannot hold an awareness of this, because as long as it's you, apparently, whatever the you mechanically seems to be at that time, seems to be reading that teletype, as long as it apparently is consciousness that in some way is separate, no matter to what degree, but ever so separate, even if it's just a bit, from the rest of the functions of this organism, that there is something in man that apparently in some way can look, as people like to say, at itself. As long as that's going on, there can be no awareness of that guideline, that either you do or you don't. Because it stays in a continual debate, in a continual argument, in a continual state of estrangement. All of you should know I've had you doing those other tasks all this time, attempting to see what was going on in your own mind, as the way we started out with the task I gave. There seems to be absolutely no harmony. There seems to be always, to varying degrees, always some sort of debate going on. This duplicity about, well, I've got to lose some weight. And simultaneously, it seems, wondering, is there still a piece of that cake left in the icebox? At the same moment, or at the same moment you have had to loosen your belt and prop your feet up on the couch, turning on the TV, and thinking, apparently, I should be out running. Ain't no doubt about it, and you reach for more potato chips. Or apparently at the same time that you're at least sitting around reading the note about someone who let you down, someone whose word proved to be less than totally valid, and you crumple the paper and you know, God damn it. And then simultaneously, though, it may come to you, there it is again, my temper. It doesn't stop it. Or if you were really attempting to make some kind of observation of what's going on, a person would find out, apparently I can be in the throes of this temper, and then I think, no, this is not profitable. I get too mad, so then I'm apparently there, then I lose that, and I'm back to, the teletype is now talking about that son of a bitch. Now, I shouldn't have trusted him, what all I've done for that person before, then apparently you can step back again to the other side. No, listen, this is not getting me anywhere. I mean, me just worrying about the past, this is not going to bring this deal to any kind of fruition. Then you're back to, yeah, but all the things you had done for the person. How can I get even now? No, wait. All right. It appears to be an almost insurmountable problem to people. It would take years of analysis, or if I'm more religious, it would take some great kiss from the gods to say, hey, calm down, Bunky. Or it would take the gods in some way to send me a bolt of enlightenment to get me over this kind of raging ambivalence. That which is not understood is it's in the complete wrong direction. for the few attempting to do this, because the answer to all of this is either you do or you don't. And that's it. There is nothing else. We're talking about now the ordinary world. At line level, that is the name of it. That's the name of that song. It's gone under other names. You can change the key. You can do it in a minor key. You can do it in a major key. You can do it fast. You can do it slow. You can do it with 12 notes. You can do it with 5 notes. But the name of that song is you either do or you don't. Coda. End of song. That's it. There are no other measures. There are no alternative verses. You either do or you don't. But something is wrong with me. I have never felt that. I read everything from pornography to books on psychology. And what they say about the great thing, the passion that people should feel sexual partners between themselves. I've just never felt it. What is wrong with me? At line level, there's nothing wrong with you. You either do or you don't. Sing the song. Any of you who can see that in an active sense, from the line down, everything in life, to conflicts between nations, down to that which is apparently more important to everyone is your own little personal world. There is nothing else to say. There is nowhere else to go. There is no court to which you can submit an appeal. There is no need to find another book. There's no need to find a new rabbi, a different priest, a new cult. You do not need any psychiatrist. At line level, the law is this, the guideline. Is you either you do or you don't. Because obviously, well, I'm assuming all of you understand that this entire organ of humanity and life's body is made up in any particular instance of those who do and those who don't. Whatever the case is, and whichever category you seem to fall in, you're never alone. You're not the only person in the world who do or who are in any instance, and neither are you the only person who don't or aren't. Not by any means. But notice consciousness has always looked and still looks with almost all of humanity. It's all you can do. A lot of you responded to this already. For some of you, a lot of you should know by now, how long are you going to be able to hold this when I get through? Consciousness has always looked, apparently, at a situation, at my relationship to a situation, and that there is something wrong. It is either wrong by the majority opinion, is the way consciousness would try and describe it, or it's either wrong by some personal feeling that I have developed toward certain parts of my behavior, including my thinking of behaving. But you can't get anywhere with that, because what is missing is a black hole that's very close to the original impetus. Is consciousness cannot go any further? And part of what it has been doing, that life has been doing with man through consciousness, is that which seems to be a manipulation, an alteration of out there, so-called science, technology, everything we've done from these TV cameras to our clothes and so forth. From a certain viewpoint, that some of you should be able to get now and then, I could say, all right, it's an illusion. I'm not saying it. I could say it's an illusion, but then it is an absolutely unavoidable illusion. It's two-dimensional sight. It's binary thinking. It's binary behavior. And from someone attempting to do this now, 6,000 years ago, that is insufficient. It's why you find in all these old well, even not so old, would-be mystical literature, always talking about life's an illusion. It does not mean by any means that those who say that and repeat it understand it. But they keep saying life's an illusion, life's an illusion. The idea, the feeling that, all right, my attitude and my experience of sex or my attitude toward politics or toward exercise, I disapprove of. I look down that teletype machine, I listen to my partner talk about what it wants to do sexually or not do, or what it wants to do vis-a-vis exercise, and I disapprove of it. Or if you're good, you can't tell who. I want to do this and my partner disapproves of it. What we've got to do is investigate this, that there is a problem somewhere. The problem is that humanity does not yet know the guideline, that either you do or you don't. And in this case, you're one of the people who don't. Or in another case, you're one of the people who do. Or you're one of the people who do and your partner don't. And yet the partnership, the verb, the process prevails. Energy gets transferred. Food, information, heat, energy gets moved, circulated within life's body, because not enough people know that either you do or you don't. Because if you started having cells in the organ of life, too many cells that knew that, it become a matter that that organ would slowly begin to die. The organ of humanity, it would cease to do what it is transforming, what it is transferring, what it is circulating, would slow down, and it would eventually cease. Humanity would serve no purpose. See if you can make a big jump sideways to this. Somebody got close to this, right at the edge of it in words, a while back. So I decided to go ahead and at least one person. Can any of you begin to see that memory, as it's called, that memory is a hardwired, foregone conclusion? Now, how is that for an absolutely insane notion? I don't know. I can probably top that. Which gets to something else. Or to let, everybody likes to have new words and new terms, as much as I resist. I can't resist one. I keep trying to talk about such as this, so I might as well put a name on it. An acronym. I started to give you a test one time. Everybody make up acronyms that didn't fit whatever it was, that the organization or the term. But notice I didn't, because I knew enough's enough. This acronym, ACB, even you can pronounce it, means apparently correct, but impossible. Now, the one I just gave about memory being a foregone, hardwired conclusion is really ACB backwards. I didn't make up an acronym for that, because that, the kind of things I do, would be apparently impossible, but correct. How about an example? Just the other day, I heard a public service announcement on the radio that concluded by pointing out that fire prevention is everyone's business. Now, first off, it should strike you immediately there's at least a flaw in there, because fire prevention is not a pyromaniac's business. But when you first hear fire prevention is everyone's business, assuming that you're a reasonable, sophisticated, Rorschach test-proven person, You feel like, yeah. So it's apparently correct, but it's impossible. It can't be everyone's business. All right, for one thing, let me go back and point this out again. Or perhaps I've never put these exact words on it. In Ordinaryville, there can be no absolute statement or fact. Of course, many of you would say that you already know that. But here's one of the explanations why. It's all one explanation. Here's another variation of it. That in Ordinaryville, there is no such thing as absolute fact. Of course, many people's yellow circuit have been fooling with that for 6,000 years. There is no such thing as an absolute statement. But based upon or in relation to Acme is this, is that for any statement to occur, its contrary likewise has to already exist. In other words, fire prevention is everyone's business. And you hear it and you think, yeah, it is. All right. There's an exception to that. There's a contrary fact was already in existence, or this statement would have never come to be. Am I right? You're doggone right, you're right. Anything that's apparently an absolute statement, be it from a folksy proverb to an absolute scientific, dogmatic statement. Of course, as many of you know, science, when you get into subatomic and otherwise nowadays, they're even beginning to hedge their bets. Life is expanding, but you grew up in most of you in a time to where in high school and probably undergraduate physics in college, they were still operating on certain dogmatic, absolute statements concerning gravity and light. And it's not so. For any statement, you understand, statement can also be statement / fact. It can be statement, it can be fact, it can be statement of fact. But for anything that appears to be absolute, as soon as most of you heard it from your reaction. How long you can remember it, that's the trick. That to say that fire prevention is everyone's business, or that we should all love our fellow man, or that which goes up comes down. Any statement that seems to be absolute is not so, because for it to ever occur in the life of man, likewise, its contrary had to exist, or this statement would not have occurred. That's it. Sorry. How about my example, though? You'll be able to, I could trip a few of you or push you a little further. The fire prevention is everyone's business, and I point out what should be the obvious. It sure as hell is not a pyromaniac's business. But beyond that, get away from just a pyromaniac. I assure you that fire prevention is not everyone's business. All right. If that be so, which it is, then who are these other people? Are they D people? Are they D carriers? But it sounds, just by every sound, every notion contained in that statement, that fire prevention is everyone's business. Anyone who did not fit into that, you would surely think, well, they've got to be playing in D's part somewhere, because fire prevention should be everyone's business. I mean, it could kill little children, old people in homes, helpless people, cripples in their bed at night. So if there are people who do not feel, who are not wired up to fit into the statement that fire prevention is everyone's business, they would surely be working for D, right? Wait. It sounds like, in general, such a positive, such a good notion. for all concerned. No selfishness involved, just fire prevention is, or should, but is everyone's business. How come it not those that did not qualify and fit into that? How come could they not be on an E-ship somewhere? Well, I knew I'd take it too far. All right, how about this? How is it that nowadays, without any doubt, that man-programmed machines can be more dependable than the programmers? Like medical diagnostic equipment, for instance. I guess all of you can think by now of your own examples. But that they can run tests through good old computerized equipment and supposedly have less oversights, less failures in the diagnostic process than an average physician can do. Of course, some of you gave an immediate reaction as soon as I asked how can it be or what's up, that which a man could program could prove to be more dependable than he who programmed it. But what I had in mind was more than an interesting question. Could any of you see that it's a matter, this is just one way, but it could be seen as a matter of mortal time being condensed until there was no room for failure due to fatigue, lapses of attention, prejudicial emotion. That you could see these machines as being, in another dimension, actual time machines. It's as though human error time had been squeezed out. Because we'll assume, well, it's a certainty, if the program gets programmed correctly, then he, she, or those who programmed it did not program it when they were fatigued to the point that they could do less than their optimum work. They did not program it when they were in a raging battle and arguing with somebody else there in the room, some other programmer, when they were under the siege of acute horniness and trying to still put on exotic moves on this woman at the next desk and still trying to work in this program to find certain blood disorders or just simple lapses of attention. That it goes through enough hands or enough process that you understand that in a sense it has become a time machine, that they have condensed human error time. It may take them who knows what. It may take them a month to program something that, say, a physician or a clinical worker might be able, when he was operating at his optimum, might be able to make this same test, let's say, in 5 minutes. A certain piece of machinery and all the equipment there. When he does it right, it takes him 5 minutes, and it is just as good, of course, as that which this programmed computer does. Except the computer always does it, whereas this human, who knows, once every 20 times he slips up, once every 100 times, once every 1,000 times. The computer never slips up. But all it knows, all it can do is what a human programmed it to do. But it's as though they took human error time and in a sense slowly squeezed it out. that it took out the space between the data and the program, wherein a human could go and look off or, ugh. It's not anything supernatural. It is not human intelligence, but it's as though they have condensed time and squeezed out all the little places wherein humans could do things uniquely human. It's not going to take. The task I wanted to give for anyone who wants to was to see what acmes you can find. But not just for the sake of finding things that may be clever, although I enjoy seeing your own effort, but continually try and keep in mind what I pointed out, that it's not just a matter that something is apparently correct but impossible, but try and keep in mind what I was pointing out, that that which any absolute statement, anything that appears to be just correct on the surface or below the surface, is not so, because the contrary had to simultaneously exist for this which appears to be correct, for it to ever appear, for it to ever surface, for life to ever bring it out through human consciousness. So it's not just a matter of finding clever ways to look at truisms, but try and simultaneously, every time you do this during the week, and every time you come up with one of aha, is try and remember and just neuralize this. Just try and hold your awareness that, all right, as true as this seems to be, the contrary simultaneously existed when this thing first surfaced. When these words, when this notion first came into the consciousness of some human somewhere, the contrary already existed, or this absolute, this truism, this correct statement of fact would not have arisen.